Hey guys, Sean Hamlin with Premier Guitar. We're at Winter NAMM 2018 in Anaheim, California with the last of our Gear Guru chats. The last few days we've been doing them live, but we had some issues with the signal here, so we decided to just record it, make sure we don't lose anything like we did with Mike Matthews yesterday. We got the one and only Paul Reed-Smith here.
That's nice.
And we've got Nick Huber, another awesome luthier who's based in Frankfurt, Germany. Well, not
Outside
Frankfurt, but yeah, what's the actual town again? I forget.
It's called
Even
Rottgau.
I know that.
Rottgau. I've been there even, I forgot.
Yeah, you've been there.
We've toured your shop.
You've been there too.
Yeah, you've been there several times, right?
Many times.
So what we thought we'd do today is, you guys have a really cool history as luthiers on your own. You're very well respected, build really cool guitars, but you also have a cool story together. And I wondered if before we kind of get to how you guys met, if we could just sort of recap how you actually got into building guitars. Now, I know there's tons of PRS nuts out there who kind of know Paul's story, but if you can recap the highlights for people who don't, and then we'll have Nick kind of do the same, and then we'll talk about how you met.
Let's start with him.
Nick,
You've now touched me 3 times, so start with him.
Nick, what? I'm gonna. There's your 3.
Who's funny over here? I was having. Look, this is the last day of NAMM. Don't expect me not to make jokes. That ain't gonna happen.
No, jokes are what we want.
That's not gonna happen.
You can't survive NAMM without jokes. Nick, what got you into building guitars?
I wanted to study architecture, which was a stupid idea, and actually, to blame first is my dad, because he went, after he retired from being a pilot, he went to the little guitar building school in Spain, just make a guitar as a holiday thing, and he brought back a guitar which really impresses me. Back then I wanted to become a rock star, of course.
And were they acoustics or electrics?
No, electrics. And then I was still in kind of a cabinet apprenticeship to have the foundation to maybe become an architect if I don't become a rock star, which I was pretty sure about I will. And I booked the.
I was pretty sure you weren't. Just like I knew I wasn't.
Exactly. And then I just went to my boss and said, I need vacation because I need to make this guitar building course. And he said, you don't have vacation days anymore. You toured with your band for 2 weeks. No days anymore. I said, we have a problem. So he gave me unpaid vacations to do the guitar building course, right? But this was like on a vacation thing in Formentera. And then I took my first built guitar and met this guy, and that was a funny thing because the front of house guy who did that in Frankfurt Music Hall, Klaus,
lovely human being. I still really love him.
What year was this?
94, yeah, 94.
With the very first guitar you built?
Yes.
1894.
Yeah, 1894.
What was the guitar like?
It was a kind of Les Paul thing, oiled. Not the
better than what he makes now.
About that.
Ouch. Was it a set neck or?
It was a set neck, Les Paul.
Okay.
Set neck.
Time out. It's a glued-in neck or a bolt-on neck. Whoever came up with this set neck, what the hell? That's not in any term. It's not in any dictionary. It was a glued-in neck.
It was a glued-in neck.
Jesus, you guys are killing me.
The fun thing was, Paul played with his band, and the place was sold out. Mm-hmm. And Klaus told me, hey, come on by, and Paul's playing, and I think Simon Phillips was playing.
It was the Frankfurt Music Hall.
Yes, and I couldn't get in, so I went to my car, grabbed a few tapes, went backstage, and said, I need to see Paul Reed-Smith. He needs to have some tapes for rehearsals. You have to let me in.
Very good. That's impressive. That's the same way I got into Aerosmith. I'm running by the lady. I said, I'm late. Where's the stage? She goes that way. And I went right by her. I pulled the same shit. It's great.
Did you know that he had done that for you?
No, I just learned now. Am I allowed to say that on the internet? No? Can I use the word no? Okay, I'm sorry.
A lot worse things
out there.
Never mind. It's Sunday. Don't ask me to be good.
Right. So yeah, and then I had the chance to meet him, and I thought I have a great guitar and was ready to be a guitar maker and ready to make a business. And
this went really well. Keep going.
Yeah. And then I met him.
And what did you say?
No. Keep going. This story gets better. Go on.
And then I said, can I maybe show you my guitar? I made a guitar. I said, yeah, sure, bring it on. But you want to have my opinion straight in the face, like looking really at me, and said, yes.
Before you even held
Before
it?
He did
well, the problem is he wants me to analyze his art. Yeah. And if he doesn't want the truth, don't show it to me. Right. I mean, I didn't.
Right.
I had jet lag. I was in Germany. We just played. I didn't want to mess with it, but I like seeing guitar makers' guitars. Very often, a guy says, "I'm a guitar maker." I said, "Really? You have a guitar to show?" "No, I never made one." "Really? You play lacrosse? You never had a lacrosse stick? Are you out of your mind?" But he had a guitar, and so I wanted to see it. So I said, "Listen, you want to know the truth or not?" He goes, "Sure." He didn't. He wasn't sheepish. It was the look he just did was sheepish. At the time, the wall did not crack. He said, "Absolutely." It was very straight. So keep going. This is a good story.
Yeah. So yeah, and
by the way, we are our stories. You got that part? That's what we are. What do they do when you die? They tell stories about you, right?
Exactly. So yeah, so he took a look at the guitar and looked at me. So, well, you have to improve. You first asked me what you want to be. I said, I want to be a guitar maker. I want to be a guitar maker. So, and said, well, then you have to improve. And so who could tell me? Who could tell me how to improve? And then he really said I could. But then he said, okay, this and that, and here, neck shape, and here, look at that, and finish this part. And so there are lots of things to improve, of course.
Hold on.
No, and then...
No, he had it. He's smart enough. He had it all in his head. He didn't write it down. Here, let me take notes. I would have thrown the notebook in a trash can.
And back then, no internet, right?
Yeah.
So he gave me his card, send me a fax. So I would send a fax with questions. I would get a fax back. You know these machines where the paper comes out? Yeah. So that was pretty much the kickoff. And
you just stayed in touch ever since
then,
periodically.
And it took me quite a while. Well, every year Paul came to Frankfurt, of course, for the Musikmesse. And every year I showed him another guitar. So,
look, I'm American, but I don't see it from an American point of view. If somebody wants to learn and they're in Germany or they're in Japan or whatever, and they want the information, that's beautiful to me, you know? And I didn't care. And somebody in my company got very upset. "What are you doing training your future competition?" I went, "There's plenty of sunshine, shut up." And it was like, you know, yeah, and it was fine. He wanted to learn. And there was you and your father came to my office.
yeah.
And you had done about 7 of the 10 things that I told you. And I said to him, he said, either fix the last 3 or stop. And the next guitar he brought, he had fixed them all. And the last time I went to his shop, he had a completely hollow guitar that sounded magical. It was actually what the hell model was that thing?
The Orca. Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. The single cut Orca.
Yeah, whatever. It was beautiful.
Do either of you remember the last 3 items out of the 10, or
I
just
remember
sort of
one of
ballpark and whatever?
If you're gonna finish, sand it and buff it right. That was one of them.
It was magical when he once said. I think that was in Cologne when we hung out.
No, that was in my office
Yeah.
in Annapolis, and your dad was in my office.
Right.
He came with you to Maryland once. And you guys stayed in a tent in Nag's Head.
Well, that was with Ingrid.
Yeah, I know.
Afterwards,
sorry,
we
I
visited
remember.
you.
I remember all this stuff.
Right. So then we've been with a little rental car, came up from Florida actually to meet you the first time. It took me, I don't know, I drove 13 hours straight just to meet the guy to get a shop tour.
And then stayed in a tent.
And then I had no money, and we were traveling with a car in the tent. That's kind of a long time ago, right?
Huh?
And then we talked.
So when you're 21,
Yeah.
you're trying to help somebody.
Yeah.
When he's his age, he's competition, which is why I have my guitar here and he doesn't have his here, because I'm still trying to take his money.
So
He's a very good guitar maker.
Oh,
he gets
I know,
the frets
I know.
in the right place. He gets the nuts in the right place. He gets the pickups in the right place. He gets the bridges in the right place. By the way, it's not so easy. It's a complicated little game, and he's good at it.
Thank you so much.
Can we backtrack a little bit? I know, like I said, a lot of people know your story, but can you sort of cover the same highlights that got you into building guitar the same way Nick did?
No.
Come on.
Oh, give me a break. You want to tell the whole PRS story?
No, but what got you into building?
It's been told so many times on the internet. Just write PRS story and watch the YouTube.
What was the spark?
The spark? What spark?
Where you decided, I'm not just going to play guitar, I'm going to build them.
I didn't have the money for a good guitar. I didn't have money for a good PA. So if I wanted to get in the club, I had to make one, because my father wasn't going to buy me one. All the other kids had PAs. All the other kids had amplifiers. I didn't have shit. And I wanted to be in a band. So I started making stuff because I could make it. In the end, if I opened a case at Washington Music Center in Wheaton, and I had made a guitar, drew a crowd. If I played, everybody ran away. I had to pay attention to that. That wasn't good. Look, my brother took me to this place. I'll tell you one story. And it's a record store. And he goes, and he shows me this record. And he goes, these guys are huge in England, and they're going to be big here. And I'm like, yeah, right, Jim. And he goes, no, they're going to be huge here. And there's a guy on the front with a big afro. He's got 2 eyes on his shirt. There's 2 white guys with afros that are imitations of the guy in the middle's afro. And I'm looking at this thing going, really? When I got home, I took the cellophane off the record, of my brother's record, which was, you don't do that. You don't open your brother's present to himself, right? And I put it on the record player, and I sat in front of it, and by the time I get to the second side, Are You Experienced, I was toast. I was done. I knew it blew me away. I had never heard anything like it in my whole life. And I didn't get into making guitars and playing them for chicks. I like guitars. I enjoyed guitars. I enjoyed the sounds. I enjoyed the playing. I mean, we can sit here and I'll start playing you all the tunes I learned. You know, if you plug me into an amp, I'll play them all. You know, Richie Blackmore got interviewed once about how he actually played Smoke on the Water, and nobody plays it right. And when I learned it, like, all the interviewers in the magazines got together and went, he told us how he did it. Like, we like all these stories. I could tell you so many stories. I enjoy it. It's fun. And by the way, you want to be a guitar maker, why not? Why not? A young man wanted to be a guitar maker and he wanted to learn, why not? Why not?
All right, fair enough. So
that was a good story.
That was a very good
Your
story.
Your answer to my story was fair enough.
Well, I feel bad because
That's what he said.
I dragged it out of you.
No, you didn't. I'm an adult. I can say no.
Okay, so you guys are.
Let me say it again. No.
Decades into building guitars for both of you. Today, as you walk around NAMM, and especially, I mean, there's an area down here where there are a whole bunch of really amazing luthiers. Many from
I went last year. It was wonderful.
From Europe and Australia and New Zealand that I've never seen before, and man, they're so cool. There's this I think Glenn Maxwell custom guitars with this carved top guitar, just so cool. I Facebooked it yesterday. It has little, and I know he's not the first guy to do this, but little slits around the edge of the top as a sound hole instead of a port. So when you guys go around and see stuff like that, or just go around the show, what is it that strikes you about the state of lutherie today and your place in it?
I don't know, because I've been glued in my booth. I'm here now because it's Sunday, but I can tell you generally what I think. The guitar's got to stay in tune. Guitar's got to play in tune. Guitar's got to make a sound. If you play it really loud, it's got to not squeal. It's got to be able to intonate. It's got to not have a nut that's made out of rubber. I mean, it's got to function as a guitar. And very often I get very disappointed when I pick up guitars and they don't work. It's like a toaster that burns the bread on one side, not the other. It's just not a good idea. So to me, the state of the art is I want products that you can use. I was at a booth this morning and the guy showed me a pedal that I'll use in a session. You want stuff, look, most CDs, you buy them, you listen to half of them, you throw it away. Once in a while, Stevie Wonder comes out with something you listen to over and over and over again. Same with guitars. When you play it once, you don't ever see it again. Once in a while, you get a guitar you play over and over and over again. So for me, I want a tool that is repetitive and does its job over and over and over and over and over again. There is a real boutique guitar thing going on, which is what that booth is, how he started. Actually, I started as like kind of a boutique thing, right? They didn't even have that word at the time. But for me, I'm looking for people to buy products that they're going to use over and over and over and over and over again, and that's not so easy. Right. So, what I want this industry to, and it always works. Look, 2 years ago, all these dealers came back in my booth because they'd had guitar affairs. They went off and done other brands. They go buy Nick's stuff, they come back to me. I don't know. There you go, right? No, but they go buy Fanos, they go buy this, they go buy that, all these brands, and then they finally come back, right? And people have guitar affairs. It happens all the time. The dealer goes and tries other brands, right? It's all okay with me. I just want it to be good gear. I just want, if you're going to sit down and play a Hammond, I want it to play and sound like a Hammond. If you got a Leslie, I hope the thing sounds good. You know, if there's a keyboard and it's got a piano sound, you want it to sound beautiful, right?
Yeah.
I don't really care. If it's a drum, a cymbal, a microphone, or whatever, this is an industry standard. Most guys, if they see that sitting there and they're going up to sit in, they don't ask for another microphone. That'll work. This will do its job.
Yeah.
And they see one of those, they go, give me a 58. But it's the same mic,
Or
almost.
or a windscreen.
Yeah, or give me a foam windscreen, right?
Yeah. Nick, same question for you. When you walk around and see all these builders, I don't know if you've gotten more time to walk around than Paul has, but
Well, at least that booth is where all the small builders are, is right across my booth. And I completely agree with Paul that at first the guitar has to work, and that's the main thing you have to first achieve. What I kind
Not
of
so easy.
not so easy, I agree. But what I try always to recall, okay, how was it when I learned it? And I don't want to appear like the old guy now, but I learned guitar making in a time where
You've got gray hair now.
it's almost white, my friend. It's been a while, but
I've got a yarmulke up here.
right. You know, but it was so different, and now if you want to get know-how, you can. It's there. It's on the street. YouTube.com, whatever.com. Books. How many books have been out there when I started guitar making? Almost nothing. At least everything was in English. No German written book. Now, you can, if you want to find out how do I spray a sunburst, Google or go to YouTube and say spraying sunburst. You see a lot. That first helps.
so in a lot of ways it's much easier, but what's the downside of all that?
It isn't any easier. Stu Mac and
No. Well, I mean,
Stu Mac and Luthiers Mercantile didn't make it any easier.
Well, I mean, you can. I think Nick was hinting at there's lots of people making videos about how they built their stuff, or
All right, so let me ask you a
vlogs
question.
or-
You got 100 people watch a video on how to spray a sunburst. Who actually gets a spray booth and a gun and tries it?
Right. That's what I was getting
like
at.
one of them,
There's
maybe.
more information, but
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I mean, at the very end, you have to do it yourself and achieve it, right?
Yeah.
You have to do the job. That's for sure. But I had a struggle to get a finish he liked. You know, it was not easy. You know, I had no idea how to pore fill. I had no idea how to properly mask off, how to do a proper binding, whatever. There is more to it now. That's how he does it. Okay, that you can find out. If you can make it on your own, that's a different animal. But it's different.
I walked away. I said, I'm done. You're on your own. And I never went back. I never said another word. Once the airplane flew, he could be his own pilot.
yeah.
I just wanted to help him get the airplane off the ground. And
he did.
His wife looked at me. She said, "Really? I'm gonna be supporting a guitar maker all my life?"
Like what you
I
did,
think
Paul.
she liked it more than having a rock dude.
Yeah, I would imagine. Your home, at least.
Yeah.
A little more. Paul, a minute ago, when you were talking about, different products besides guitars, it made me think about the fact that you guys have done amps now, a lot of amps. Have you
We
guys
sold 1,501 model at this show.
Yeah.
We have a hit.
Do you think you guys are going to branch into pedals or anything?
I don't know yet. And if I tell you, I haven't told my reps yet and my distributors. So
They're looking into it right now.
You're not going to
There's
get
prototypes.
that. But I can tell you, I have 2 prototypes in my office.
Really?
I have something called Wind Through the Trees and another one called Horse Meat. A horse meat, because I got a Klon Centaur sitting there on a real one, and I got horse meat because horse meat eats the Klon Centaur for lunch.
And what the Wind Through what again? What was it?
Through the Trees.
What's that one like? Just generally.
It's 2 flangers in one box.
2 Flanders
In one box.
I don't even know what 1 Flanders is.
A flanger.
Oh, I thought you said Flanders, like Ned Flanders. I'm like, I don't know what the hell.
That's
I don't know about that company
Double
that makes
Flanders
the Flanders.
is a good name for the box. I'll change.
Trademark the
Flanders, man.
word.
Maybe it's just because we had our John Achenbach, the Simpsons animator, who did our Homer Simpson cover a couple years ago. I don't know. What's NAMM? What about you? I mean, Nick, you've been doing this a long time, but still about half as long.
Right?
Are you thinking of branching out into other stuff, or?
Well, I have tons of ideas, but the thing is, right now I still stick to what we do and try to do good or best what we can. I don't have that many options concerning team and size of the company like Paul has.
He's got a very small, dedicated crew.
So I've 8 guys. That's
No,
more than I've
There are
thought.
women there.
Yes.
It's not just guys. That's
All right,
not
I have Christine, and actually we try to now be in the position where we actually can offer apprenticeships in guitar making, because
That's one way to get free labor.
that's one way, but this is also to give a part of it to the next generation, right?
You just look like a big target to me. You just look like a bow and arrow target.
I'm good.
Don't be a bully. Just kidding.
He's my friend.
I know.
He has
He's like your
teased
little
me.
brother.
If he wants to be
Ever
silver tongued
since
back
he has
at me,
teased
he's come after me before. This is a two-way street.
Go after him,
That's
Nick.
fun. That's really
Yeah,
fun.
you watch Paul go.
No, he
Nick,
kicked my butt in guitar making big time. That was a lot of looking back, great.
Time out. If you're gonna learn, if you've seen this movie, Whiplash.
No.
Yeah.
So
the
in
drumming,
Whiplash,
yeah.
the drummer is being trained by the guy, and the guy's an awful human being in the movie. He's absolutely awful. But if you really watch the movie, the reason he's being awful is he doesn't think he thinks he'll spend his whole life and do all this apprenticing, and no one will become great. And he thinks in his mind, if he's not really awful and challenges a guy that heavy, he'll never stretch to be great. I don't do it that way. But for me not to push on him on each of the areas, because guitar making is a jack of all trades. You're a chemical engineer, you're a mechanical engineer, you're an electrical engineer, you're a materials engineer, you're a wood buyer, you're all kinds of crazy things, and he needed to learn them all. For me not to push on him is nuts. I wasn't mean to him at all.
I was just teasing you.
That I didn't say. But it was a fun way, really. It was a really honest way, and I appreciate
said
that.
we needed humor,
it was
Paul.
great.
I'm just teasing you.
What it was, shit was funny over here. What you said wasn't funny over here, so
Nick, have you? I don't know if I'm unaware of this at all, but have you delved into acoustics at all?
No, I would love to, and actually one of my team members is an acoustic guitar maker. We've been doing semi-hollows and F-hole guitars,
Yeah.
but
Nick, which one?
which
Which guitar
builder?
maker? Which builder in your
Alex.
So let him make one.
Yeah, I mean, right now I have so many other ideas, and sometimes they hate me for that.
And you have like a year waiting list of
Yeah.
But
Yes.
you got to let your people spread their wings.
We'll do that, especially on this apprenticeship thing. We have to actually train somebody how to make an acoustic guitar, so that's part of it. So that's going to be happening. But like I said, we're busy. We're kind of a smaller company, and I would love to. But I think first of all, we try to make a bend side archtop kind of thing. So that
still kind of feel like you're mastering and perfecting that.
Like an
Yeah, but at
L5?
least-
Like
Yeah,
a Birdland?
something like that.
You're going to make a bent side, half electric, half acoustic
Right.
guitar.
I'm gonna try this. I didn't say it's going to be a modeloid, which will be
It's
great,
actually
or will be
for
a hot
him,
seller.
The hollow
Just
body
a lot
that
of fun.
The
Just
hollow
messing
body
around.
that I played from you was gorgeous sounding. For you to do that's not a bad idea, because there's a history of jazz in Europe and Germany. You'll sell it.
And my son is a jazz guitarist.
Oh,
My son is much into jazz
Is
and
he?
rock, of course. But yeah. So
So
What?
yeah, this is fun. I'm enjoying this.
Is there? So, at this point in your careers, it's at that point where you're really, really good at what you do. You kind of got it down. You have to have a lot of confidence, but you're still have a long way to go, I would imagine, in your careers. What excites you about it now, and what keeps you hungry?
I don't think the learning ever stops. I want it to stop, but it just won't stop. Every single day. He's got people in his shop that can teach him things. I learned something today about a part of the story I didn't know.
Oh, the tapes.
You know something? Mark Tremonti changed my company at this show. I've never sold 1,500 of something that fast ever and got best of show that fast. I've never seen anything like it.
Congrats on that, by the way.
And what I did was I let Mark, thank you, I let Mark and Doug do it by themselves. I stayed out of it because Mark Tremonti knew what he was doing.
Doug Sewell, right?
Yeah, Doug Sewell, the amp builder.
Designer.
And they did such a good job that I did not have one dealer plug into that amp and not buy amps. And literally one dealer, when he put it out, he got money down on 15 of them the second that he put it out, and he ordered like another 35. I mean, I've never seen anything like that. It's going to change my paradigm about how to go after products. I'm getting schooled at this show all the time. Look, the job of the spiritual warrior is to stand at the river and look for moments. And when you get good at looking, they come way faster than you ever wanted. And to me, learning it's beautiful. Win and I, Win's over here, he does artist relations for PRS. We went to a booth today and we learned something. It's just it won't stop. It's never going to stop. And he starts making bent side guitars. He's going to learn a lot real fast, which is why do they put binding on those things? To cover the glue joint. Yeah. So to me, it's not going to stop. You're going to have to put a stick in me and skewer me. I'm done.
What about you, Nick?
Same thing. There's always the next and better guitar. I think that the learning that never stops, like Paul said, and there's still so many things in guitar. You can make a good guitar, but there's always something you can learn about. Okay, let's do the finish different, use a different finish, use a different buffing component, whatever. There's so many ways, many different ways you can make a guitar, and exchanging with guitar makers, exchanging with Paul was so helpful, and yeah, the learning is always there. And if it stops, we should switch jobs.
Right. Is it tough to balance, like, whether you're going to do your learning and research by being aware of what's around you or just having alone time with your stuff?
Both.
Is it tough balancing that? Like, because there's so much that you might not be aware of. I guess you can only do what you can do, but...
Sometimes I feel like stuck in what we do, especially since we moved last year to a new building.
That's right.
And couldn't make guitars for 6 weeks, and had this feeling of burnout meets midlife crisis after the move. Of course, you get stuck in some way.
Because you couldn't actually put your hands on.
It was a lot of work, and it was moving, and machines break down, and truck, and here and there, and I felt like, God, I die. But it's there, up and running. But I was really stuck in kind of recap, like cash flow wise. We couldn't make 6 weeks, no guitars, but we have employees, we paid salaries, so we need to catch up. So that makes you of being stuck and maybe not going forward and learning or fulfilling ideas. But there are ideas, of course, and at some point you'll just find the time and do that. Or you go out, have 2 days off, being on your own on the ocean, and start thinking with a little notebook and a pen, and that's
you gotta find your way to recharge. And
very helpful.
Yeah. Before we go, do you guys have any questions that have come up in your head to ask each other, or should I ask my last one to you?
I think that we talked a lot. We spent some hours.
Okay, and this is sort of, maybe it's sort of a predictable question, but do you have any words of advice for players out there, or budding builders, people thinking about getting into building?
Well, I'm sitting here with Paul, and what I recapped was knowing Paul and seeing Paul Reed Smith guitars. That was the company. A great company, great guitars in business at NAMM. I remember my first visit at the NAMM show, and I said it was '97. I dreamed of, that would be so cool to have a booth at NAMM one day. But it's such a big goal. But I saw Paul, and what I wanted to say is that thinking in a kind of, not in the smallest way, but thinking big and seeing what could happen is always helpful to me.
Keep dreaming, basically. Is that what you mean?
Dream big.
Yeah.
Don't dream big.
Shoot yourself down with doubts.
But after he went to his first NAMM show, let me repeat what his wife said. You spent how much money? Okay, the first time I went to NAMM, they charged me $5 a shrimp for the party.
Yeah.
I mean, this is not cheap doing this, right?
Yeah.
There's another reality in it.
Yeah.
Any parting words of advice, Paul, for players or budding builders?
Yeah, get a teacher. I had Ted McCarty. I had a violin maker.
Yeah.
I had Warren Essen, who around business. I had teachers having to do with the patents and the trademarks. I had teacher after teacher after teacher after teacher. If you want to get somewhere, you find somebody who's already been there. If you want to learn how to fish a river, find the old man that's been fishing that river his whole life, and he'll leapfrog you 10 years forward in 2 weeks.
Right.
So to me, you can go fish every hole, but he knows way more than you do. And so some of these young kids are watching YouTube, and they're starting where Dennis Chambers is leaving off, as a drummer, because they can study it and they can see it all, and literally they can pick the football up from here and go on. What some guitar players don't understand is that, they need to play melodies. There's a rhythm involved. There's harmony. You got to learn all three of those separately. For guitar making, there's way more arts than the three that you need to be a musician. But to me, get a teacher and get somebody who's going to be not like the guy in Whiplash, but somebody who knows what they're. That guy was he was just mean.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. It was really fun. I think everyone out there is going to get a lot out of this. I hope you enjoyed the rest of the show.
So I have something to say about journalists. You want to hear my take on journalists?
I don't know if I do. But go yeah.
You report on the past, you report on the moment, and you predict the future. In a way, you guys are like sages, because that's what a journalist's job is. A journalist's job is almost like a lawyer. A lawyer protects you from what you did in the past, tells you what not to do in the moment, and writes a contract to save your ass in the future, right? You guys are the same way. It's not a joke. I have a huge respect for journalists and what you're doing, because you're trying to dig out of us what happened, what had happened, what's happening now, and what do you think is going to happen, which is exactly what you did. And I have a real immense respect for it, so good job.
Thank you, Paul.
You're welcome.
Thank you for joining us, guys. If you're watching live, just check out our live streams of other stuff on the show. We have other talks with Mike Matthews and Jamie Stillman from Earthquaker Devices. We're also doing editors' picks every day of the show, so check us out later today at 5 o'clock. It's probably not going to be live because the Wi-Fi is kind of sucky, but just search around. You'll find it. Later, guys. Thanks, Paul.